Hi there, I'm Lassie. A few months ago, I walked into a Manhattan gala, my own family's event, just to hear them mock me to a crowd of strangers. What they didn't know? The $2.3 billion tech they were celebrating was mine. They stole it. They erased me, and they nearly got away with it. But how far would your family go to silence you and call it love? What would you do if your name disappeared from your life's work? What time are you listening to this? And where are you watching from? Drop a comment. I'd really love to hear from you. I hadn't been back to the Rosemore estate in 3 years, but tonight the gates opened like the mouth of a beast swallowing me whole. The winter air bit into my skin as I stepped out of the car. I wore navy, not to stand out, just to be undeniable. The Whitmore Gala was exactly how I remembered. Golden lights, orchestral strings, and the scent of old money and polished betrayal. Every smile was hollow. Every glance, a calculated dismissal. They noticed me, all right. They always did. But now I was a ghost in a home I helped build. Reed spotted me first. His grin didn't reach his eyes. "Lacey, you made it," he said, tone flat, eyes flicking back to the stage. I gave a nod. That was all he deserved. Inside, the ballroom buzzed with legacy, arrogance, and secrets. Crystal chandeliers shimmered above heads full of self-importance. I stayed near the back, observing, not engaging. I wasn't here to argue. I came to watch them lie. Griffin stepped to the podium like a god in his own temple. The room hushed. "Tonight," he announced, "we celebrate the culmination of Whitmore brilliance, a $2.3 billion defense contract. And the product? Sentinel, our revolutionary AI platform." Applause exploded. I didn't clap. Reed followed, practically glowing. Sentinel was born from our vision of a safer world. Our team worked tirelessly, through nights, pressure, and sacrifice. Our team. He never looked at me, but he didn't need to. His words were sharp enough. And, of course, Griffin added with a smirk, some family members couldn't quite handle the pressure. But that's all right. Not everyone's cut out for greatness. Laughter. Not mine. My fingers tightened around the champagne glass. Reed invited the press forward. Cameras flashed. Zane, always the opportunist, lifted his phone, whispering something about content for his stream. I didn't flinch. I walked away. The garden was quieter. Empty benches, trimmed hedges, and the faint sound of a violin leaking from inside. I let the cold in, let it numb the boiling beneath my skin. I'd spent nights soldering Sentinel's neural framework in a studio apartment with no heat, and now it had a spotlight, and I had silence. Footsteps. Mallory. She approached like guilt wrapped in designer fabric. "Lacey, don't make this harder than it is," she murmured. "You know how they are. Reed had to do what's best for the brand." I stared at her, unblinking. "And what am I then?" She exhaled. "Collateral." A tremor passed through me, quick as lightning, but I didn't give her the show she wanted. I turned away. Back inside, the energy shifted. People whispered. Phones lit up like a constellation of suspicion. Heads turned. A video was circulating. Reed's voice. Griffin's too. Words sharp as razors, broadcast unintentionally from a live mic, still transmitting. "She's here? Who invited her? Let her watch. She won't fight back. She never does." Silence stretched like smoke. Then the murmurs started. "That's Lacey, right? Wasn't she?" "She's the original dev. I think she built it." I felt it then. The unraveling. My phone buzzed. A message preview blinked from a name I hadn't seen in years. "Is this true? You're Sentinel's original architect?" I looked up, eyes burning through the frost of betrayal. The ballroom hadn't changed, but the air had. Heavier now. Tighter. I walked back in, not to scream, not yet, but to watch the cracks in their empire grow. They mocked me at their own celebration. Now, they've handed me the match. By Monday, the video had traveled faster than truth ever could. Clips of Griffin's voice, the smug dismissal, the offhand cruelty, were dissected on podcasts, retweeted with outrage, and paired with images of me from the gala, standing alone in that navy dress. But the silence from Whitmore Group was louder than any viral storm. No apology, no lawyer, no press statement, nothing. I waited, heart stubbornly hopeful, thinking maybe, just maybe, the leak would force their hand. But the phone stayed quiet. No knock, no olive branch. Instead, I got a call from Danny, freelance IP researcher, obsessive, brilliant. "Hey," she said, breathless, not even saying hello. "Lacey, I checked the patents. You're not on them." I blinked. "What do you mean I'm not?" "You're not listed anywhere. Not as co-author, contributor, nothing. It's been wiped." I opened the registry myself, fingers trembling, coffee growing cold on the counter. Danny was right. Every record, every internal memo, every technical log, gone. It was like I had never existed. My name had been replaced with placeholder aliases or omitted entirely. Even the metadata was scrubbed clean. No version history, no timestamps leading back to me. I sat down and opened a blank document, typing furiously. Every architecture note I remembered, every phase, every flaw I'd patched. I couldn't afford to forget. Not now. In that silence, I felt myself unravel a little. The next day, I stood at a downtown business archive office, clutching a folder of emails and old prototypes. The man at the counter gave me a polite smile and handed over a digital log of previous Sentinel filings. When I searched, my name was gone, even on the earliest drafts. "How is that even legal?" I muttered. He didn't answer. I dragged myself to a coffee shop in Park Slope. The clatter of cups and low hum of conversation grounded me just enough. I opened old backups, Git commits, Dropbox folders, server logs. Some things were still intact. Others had been tampered with. Metadata overwritten, IP addresses untraceable. It hadn't happened overnight. This was a coordinated erasure, long before the gala. I heard Reed's voice in my head. "Let her watch. She never fights back." It made me want to scream. That night I called Alex, a former Whitmore intern who'd once looked at me like I was the smartest person in the room. Now he answered with wariness. "You shouldn't be calling me," he said. "I'm not asking you to pick a side," I replied. "I just need the truth." A long silence, then a sigh. "Check your inbox in 5 minutes." When the file came through, I opened it with shaking hands. A scanned internal contract, my name at the top, my supposed signature at the bottom, dated 2 years ago. It was a transfer of full IP rights to Whitmore Group. The signature looked almost right. Almost. But the C in Carter curled too far. The tail of the L was flat. Details you wouldn't notice unless you'd signed your own name 1,000 times. I whispered to no one. They forged me into silence. I emailed it to a copyright attorney that night. Attached with it were annotated screenshots, time-stamped messages, and my raw design files. It wasn't everything, but it was enough. He called me back an hour later. "If this is real," he said, "you don't just have a case, you have a war." The envelope was matte black, no logo, no return address, only my name printed in neat silver script. I hesitated before opening it. Inside, a non-disclosure agreement and a cashier's check. $3 million. I read the letter once, then again. Mallory's signature sat at the bottom. Not Griffin's, not Reed's. Hair in the NDA was simple. Walk away. Never speak about Sentinel, Whitmore Group, or any claim to ownership. The check was already valid. Take it and vanish. $3 million. Enough to disappear, to start a new life, to buy silence. But I couldn't breathe. Because it wasn't just hush money. It was a grave marker. A price tag for my name, my labor, my voice. That night I sat in the dark of my Brooklyn apartment. The only light came from the kitchen where I hadn't bothered to finish dinner. Cold takeout, still untouched. I stared at the check, the ink gleaming like a dare. Then came the knock. Mallory. She didn't ask to come in. She just did. She looked polished, effortless. A camel coat over beige cashmere, her hair twisted into a soft chignon like this was some holiday visit. She held a bottle of wine. I didn't open it. "You've been through enough," she said, as if that justified anything. "Take the money. Start over somewhere that isn't poisoned." "Poisoned by who?" I asked, my voice flat. She sighed. "Lacey, I'm trying here. This doesn't have to get ugly. We're still sisters." I wanted to laugh. Instead, I said nothing. She walked toward the envelope, gently brushing her hand over it. "This is a chance to let it go. You don't need to burn everything down just to prove a point." "Why now?" I asked. She looked away. "Because it's better this way. For everyone." The way she said it, rehearsed, defensive, confirmed everything. She wasn't here for closure. She was the messenger. After she left, I stared at the envelope again. My hands itched. I needed to move. I started picking up the scattered documents on the floor, old case notes, scribbled strategy timelines, and a folder she'd nudged off the table. When I picked it up, something small and metallic slid across the floor. A USB. She hadn't noticed. I plugged it into my laptop. The file had no label, just a timestamp. I hit play. Reed's voice, then Griffin's. "She'll fold, she always does. That girl is brilliant, but gutless." My skin prickled. My mouth went dry. I sat frozen as their words slithered out, smug and certain. My breath came sharp. I closed the laptop slowly, like it might explode if I moved too fast. I looked around my apartment, the space where Sentinel was born in quiet hours and restless nights, my fortress, my exile. The check still sat on the counter, untouched. I picked up my phone. The journalist on the other end had been trying to reach me since the leak. I'd ignored her, until now. "I think it's time the world hears the full story," I said. "But off record, for now, I want you to hear something first." They offered me silence. I chose a voice. When I opened my phone that morning, the world had already turned. My name was everywhere. Twitter, Reddit, YouTube, lit up in hashtags like a bonfire set to my reputation. Lacey the liar, tech thief. A video had gone viral overnight. It showed me, or what looked like me, typing frantically on a laptop, overlaid with a voiceover accusing me of stealing Sentinel from Whitmore. It wasn't real. The footage was manipulated, the audio stitched. But it didn't matter. The damage was done before I even poured coffee. News anchors played clips with half-hearted disclaimers. The authenticity of the footage has not been verified. Still, they aired it on loop. Underneath, the captions screamed louder than the truth ever could. Then I saw his face, Zane. He appeared in the background of the video, not front and center, not obvious, but there, nodding slightly during an off-camera interview, like a quiet endorsement of the lie. He didn't need to say anything. That gesture was enough. It wasn't the first time Zane had disappointed me, but this was strategic, personal. He didn't just step aside, he aligned himself with them. 16 years ago, Zane sat in my cramped kitchen, legs swinging off a too-tall stool as I taught him how to code his first app. He was 15, all insecurity and ambition. I proofread his college essays, helped him get his first internship. I told him he mattered, long before anyone else did. Now he was helping bury me. I shut the laptop. I didn't cry, not yet. Hours later, I received an encrypted email from a username I didn't recognize. Subject line: "They planned this." I opened it with shaking hands. Inside were screenshots, chat logs from a Slack-like platform, dated 2 weeks before the gala. Zane, Griffin, and a third name I didn't recognize. The messages were damning. "Push the anti-Lacey content starting Monday. Keep it vague. We don't need facts. Just fire. Let the crowd do the rest. A paid troll farm. Dozens of accounts. Bots programmed to flood threads. Spread the doctored video. Repeat key phrases. Unstable. Disgruntled. Jealous." I printed the screenshots, filed them in a folder labeled TRUTH. I didn't need revenge porn. I needed strategy. Then came the final blow. My inbox, filled with emails from old friends, ex-colleagues, college professors. Some supportive, most curious, a few cruel. One just said, "Why didn't you speak up sooner?" Like silence was a crime. I opened every account I still had, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, and deactivated them one by one. Watching each logout screen felt like shedding a skin. I didn't want to defend myself in that arena, not on their terms. Instead, I made one call, a number I hadn't dialed in 4 years. She picked up on the second ring. "Lacey?" Her voice was cautious. "I need your help," I said. "I'm not fighting them online. I'm taking this where they're blind." A pause. "Tell me when." I already did. They wanted a war of noise. I was about to bring silence that screamed. Mallory greeted me with chamomile tea like we were back in college, as if the last 2 weeks hadn't scorched through the roots of everything we shared. Her kitchen was impossibly neat, lemon-scented, the clink of the spoon against porcelain sounding too calm. I sat across from her, watching the way her fingers moved, steady, deliberate. "I figured you'd stop by eventually," she said, eyes soft. "You look tired." I didn't respond. Instead, I asked, "Do you remember the early version of Sentinel? The first time I implemented self-adapting loops?" She blinked too slowly. "Vaguely. You were always tinkering." But she named a structural flaw I'd never mentioned outside of code review. My stomach turned. I left before my questions got sharper. Later that night, combing through backups for the lawsuit prep, I found it. A folder buried under old conference slides, labeled Redundancy 2015. One document inside. It was an email from Mallory to read. Attached, the earliest prototype of Sentinel. My code, my notes, even my footer, still intact. Subject line, just in case. The date was 8 years ago. 8 years ago, she'd brought me soup while I coded on the floor of our parents' sunroom. I'd been pale, exhausted, and convinced she believed in me. She kissed my forehead and said, "You're building the future, Lace." Now I knew what she meant. She wasn't proud. She was preloading ammunition. I sat back, staring at the screen. Betrayal didn't come with screaming. It came like frost. Quiet. Creeping. 2 days later, I was at a press hearing. Just a preview session, briefing the media before the congressional testimony. I thought I was prepared, until they flashed the slide. It was a scanned page, my handwriting, my words, doodles in the margins. I knew that page better than my own signature, my childhood journal. I'd left it in Mallory's guest room the last time I visited for Thanksgiving. I hadn't seen it since. Now it was being quoted to paint me unstable. A panelist read aloud, "I feel invisible. Maybe I'll make something so big they'll have to see me." The room paused. I looked up, met the moderator's gaze, and said clearly, "I've learned to outcode liars. I'll outlive them too." No one clapped, but they didn't look away. That night, I blocked Mallory from every platform, number, and thread we shared. Her digital existence vanished from mine like erasing corrupted code. Before bed, I wrapped a small package in brown paper. Inside, the framed quote I'd given her for her engagement, "Sisters by blood, partners by choice." I scratched out the second line with a scalpel and mailed it without a note. The envelope was thick, federal, and official. It waited silently on my desk until midnight, when I finally dared to tear it open. A congressional subpoena, summoning me to testify under oath. The timing was surgical, part triumph, part threat. I held the letter tightly, my pulse erratic. My father's words echoed. "You were never built for public confrontation." I slept maybe 3 hours that night. The next 5 days blurred into caffeine, legal memos, mock questions, and wardrobe decisions that felt more like armor than fashion. The morning of the hearing, I stood in front of the mirror in a steel gray suit, no jewelry except for a plain watch. I pinned my hair back, clean lines, controlled breath, controlled fire. The Capitol room buzzed when I stepped in. Cameras, murmurs, reporters perched like vultures. Griffin was already there, smug and polished, 2 seats down. His tie was red, always red, when he felt he'd already won. The chair of the committee, a composed senator with eyes like flint, raised a printout. "Ms. Whitmore, we've received your written testimony. Please confirm this was submitted by you." I blinked. I didn't submit anything. A pause that sucked the air from the room. The screens lit up with the document. My name, my signature, my supposed words, lined with passive absolution, tech jargon warped into political theater. The statement implied I was involved tangentially, that Whitmore Group had spearheaded everything with my technical assistance. I stepped forward, voice steady. If I had written this, I wouldn't be here now. I'd be in hiding. Behind me, I heard the rustle of papers, murmurs from legal counsel. My hands remained still at my sides. The senator adjusted her glasses. "You're claiming this was fabricated?" "I'm not claiming. I'm stating." I didn't flinch. The signature was copied from a grant form I submitted 7 years ago. The phrasing, that's not mine. I don't use passive voice when I code. I don't use it when I speak truth. Gasps. One camera shuttered 3 times. Griffin shifted. Reed glanced at his lap. Then I added, "I have audio of internal conversations that contradict this. I have email chains. I have time-stamped server logs. I came prepared to speak today, not to unsign lies." The room tilted, eyes turned. The stage wasn't his anymore. It was mine. As I stepped down, Griffin leaned in, his voice a scalpel. "Next time, stay bought." I turned sharply, locking eyes with the chair. "Permission to reopen discovery?" A beat. Then the senator replied, "Granted." It came on a rainy afternoon, tucked between court memos and a grocery flyer. No return address. Just my name, written in handwriting I hadn't seen in years. I knew it before opening it, Zane. The letter was honest, or tried to be. He apologized for standing silent when my name was shredded, for filming me without warning. He said he hadn't known how deep it would cut until it was too late. He'd left Whitmore's media team weeks ago, he wrote, said he wanted to meet. I want to understand what I helped destroy. I read it 3 times. My fingers shook. And still, I tucked the letter under my pillow that night. It wasn't that I trusted him, not entirely, but a part of me, some younger, dumber part, wanted to believe there was still one ember of decency left in him, the one that used to sneak cafeteria muffins into my coding lab at Columbia, the one that used to say, "You're the smartest person in every room. Let them underestimate you." The next day I met him at the cafe 2 blocks from campus. He arrived first, sunflower in hand, my favorite. He even remembered to clip the stem just like I used to. No plastic wrap, no vase, just raw, yellow, hopeful life. "Hey, Lacey." His voice was low, fragile. We talked about the project, the family, the fallout. He said he regretted everything, that he had no part in the forged testimony. I listened, sipping black coffee gone cold, and for a second, just a second, I believed him. That night, my phone buzzed with a secure message from Mallory. 1 line. His mic was live. My heart stopped. I stared at the screen, unable to move. Then I opened the file she'd sent, a time-stamped audio log, transcription below. Zane's voice. "She doesn't know I'm wired. She's talking. She'll admit the gray areas soon." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just sat still, tasting bile. My stomach flipped, but it wasn't from surprise. It was from shame. Not because I'd been played, because I'd let myself want to believe. And yet, I walked to my desk, retrieved my own phone, opened voice notes. The waveform was still there. I'd left it recording the moment I'd sat down at the cafe, face down on the table, just in case. I replayed it, my voice clear. "You don't get to rewrite what you helped erase." And his, "I just want to fix what I can." I paused the file, lips curling into a bitter smile. They really thought I'd come unarmed. They forgot who taught Zane how to code. The invitation came wrapped in silk, literal silk. A courier handed me a white box sealed with the Oracle emblem. Inside, a formal letter embossed in gold, an offer to become CTO of Sentinel under their new acquisition of Whitmore Group. There was a separate envelope with numbers that would make anyone stop breathing. Unlimited R&D funding, public acknowledgement, full creative autonomy, redemption in six-figure font. But my stomach twisted. I stared at the details, then back at my name printed in large serif font across the title, Chief Technology Officer, Sentinel Division. It looked neat. Too neat. I'd learned that nothing from Whitmore came without claws. Still, I flew to D.C. and stood backstage in heels that pinched like guilt. Griffin greeted me with that mock humble tilt of his head. "You made the smart call," he whispered. "Finally." The lights flared, and I walked onto the stage to applause thick with assumption. The podium stood ready with a nameplate that wasn't mine, but claimed me all the same. I glanced at the prepared statement on the screen and ignored it. I faced the crowd. "Thank you for the generous offer, but I decline." Gasps rippled like thunder over silk. The Oracle reps stiffened. Griffin blinked, lips tightening. I let the silence swell. I won't lead a project whose foundation was theft, of ideas, identity, and integrity. I came to build, not to be bought. The silence cracked. Whispers ignited into chatter. I stepped off stage, no glance back. That night in my Brooklyn apartment, I sat with the contract one last time. Legal jargon layered in passive voice, but there it was, in the fine print. By accepting this role, the signatory agrees to transfer ownership of all branding, product legacy, and future derivative rights to the Whitmore Group. They hadn't just offered me a job, they'd crafted a trap to erase me again, legally this time. I laughed. It wasn't bitter, it was clean. I'd come too far to be reshaped in their image again. At midnight, I uploaded a video to the original Sentinel landing page, a domain still routed through a private registrar I'd kept from the beginning. The screen faded from black to me at my desk. They offered me control, but buried in the offer was my own disappearance. Here's what they hoped no one would read. I walked viewers through the clause. I named names. I linked evidence. "And one more thing," I added, leaning in. "This isn't a leak. This is a release." I clicked publish. Then I turned off the lights, let the silence stretch like smoke, and walked out onto the fire escape to feel the air shift. They called it a reckoning. The video went viral in under 3 hours. By morning, Oracle had suspended the merger. By evening, Griffin was trending, for all the wrong reasons. Internal investigation was the phrase every outlet parroted. No denial, just delay. Zane vanished from every platform. Mallory posted a Notes app apology that said everything and nothing. I didn't reply. The noise outside roared. Protest signs, podcast debates, analysts dissecting every clause in that contract like it was scripture. I watched none of it. There was no thrill in being believed too late. I had outlived the damage. That was enough. A few days later, I took the train to Queens. My childhood block still smelled like wet pavement and old magnolia trees. Kids raced their bikes along cracked sidewalks. A woman watered her lawn, nodding hello like I hadn't just dismantled an empire. I sat outside the old duplex, legs crossed on the crumbling steps. No one lived there now. It was boarded up and quiet, but the ghosts stayed busy. It was here, on a second-hand laptop with a missing R key, that I'd written the first line of Sentinel's code. It started as a project to protect people. I opened my notebook and sketched out a new algorithm. No company name, no stakeholders, just logic and intention. I let the sun hit the page until the ink shimmered. Mallory's letter arrived the next day. Her handwriting was smaller than I remembered. She wrote about fear, about needing to secure a place at the table before it was pulled away. "I didn't mean to hurt you," she wrote. "I just wanted to survive." I folded the letter once. Didn't open it again. Zane left a voicemail too. His voice cracked mid-sentence. "I don't want to fix what we built. I just want to remember we were something once. If you ever want to rebuild, just as siblings, call me." Delete. Griffin's lawyers reached out, requesting a statement for his sentencing hearing. I stared at the email for 5 minutes, then deleted that too. Some things rot better alone. By the end of the week, I was back in Vermont. The cabin sat still beside the lake, its silence thicker than snow. Inside, my prototype hummed quietly. No name, no audience, just movement, an AI system trained not to sell, but to shield. I sat by the window, watching mist rise off the water. In front of me, a simple run command blinking on the screen. I whispered, "No press, no boardroom, no legacy, just creation." My finger tapped enter. A soft glow flickered across the monitor, steady and clean. The world might never know what I built next, and that finally feels like freedom. Some victories aren't about applause. Sometimes they're quiet decisions made behind closed doors, choosing peace over revenge, truth over acceptance, and silence not out of fear, but power. I lost a family, a name, a legacy, and found myself. If you're walking through betrayal, remember this. What's stolen from you does not define you. What you rebuild in your own image, that's yours forever. What would you choose? To reclaim your voice or to let go and start anew? If this story moved you, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. I'd love to know. And if it didn't resonate, share your thoughts. Dialogue builds understanding. If you felt this video touch something real in you, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next story that might speak even louder.